Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fearless Artist Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Lynne, and today I'm thrilled to have Associate Chorus Director of the London Philharmonic, Tori Longdon. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm really well. I'm so excited to be talking to you today on this podcast.
I love how you sent me a comment on one of my reels, and then I was like, you need to come on because I had no idea that you were listening. And you mentioned just casually one day that you'd heard every episode, and I said, well, here's my in.
I'm
Please be a
not sure
guest.
I can claim to have heard every episode, but you are absolutely on the top of my roster of driving podcasts. I love TFA. I feel like it's connected me to a community of like-minded musicians. To hear people talking about things that are concerning me and to have so many practical tips has made a real impact to my career in the last couple of years. So thank you very much.
Oh, wow. Well, that's an amazing way to start the episode. Thank you. Because I mean, I don't ever really know who's listening. So when I do get the feedback, I appreciate it so much. I would love to introduce you properly to our listeners today. If you could share a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a British conductor. I studied choral conducting at the Royal Academy of Music in London. Lots of Royal Academies all over the world, so I have to be specific. And now I am the Associate Chorus Director of the London Philharmonic Choir. So I cover an enormous breadth of repertoire with them, all the way from The Lord of the Rings in concert, which I'm starting to rehearse in February, all the way through to large symphonic work. You know, we've been doing pieces by Tan Dun recently. We've got some Rachmaninoff on the books, and I'm taking the chorus to Hong Kong in November to sing Mahler 8 with the Hong Kong Phil. So with the whole gamut of repertoire there with the London Philharmonic Choir. And then in the rest of my time, I work with a lot of different groups running workshops and conductor training. And I also founded the World Choir with Jamie Wright, who's the baritone and mouth drummer in the Swingles, beatboxer. And we provide online recording programs for anybody who wants to try out singing in a friendly way, where we get composers on and we learn about music together, and then we put together albums with singers from all over the world.
That's amazing. And you have thousands in this choir, correct?
We do, like a lot of people, and it does fluctuate depending on what music we're singing. There are a couple of composers that we know bring everybody out of the woodwork, but the whole point of World Choir is the diversity of the repertoire. So for every mainstream piece of repertoire, we like to serve up something that we think you've never heard of before.
Okay. And when you say albums, tell me about some of the albums you guys have released. What are the projects?
Wow, well, we've done 5 albums,
Okay.
and this year was our first Christmas album.
Oh,
And we
lovely.
put together a mix of big hitters, big sort of choral rep standards, and then some new pieces that we've dug out of the woodwork. We do a lot of research in order to program our albums. We've performed a piece of Brazilian a cappella choral music that had never been produced in editorial form at all. We got a handwritten manuscript from the composer's wife. We did a
Wow.
piece of Ukrainian choral music, very similar. We managed to find a score from a friend of a friend of a friend, which has been done as competition repertoire, but as far as we know, had never been recorded. And we pair that alongside Bach. We've tackled Com Jesu Com, and other sort of stalwarts of the choral repertoire.
That's phenomenal. So when you started this project, had you envisioned being able to bring these types of works to life?
No.
Yeah.
When we started the project, we started it as many of these projects start, with a small idea, which was to bring people together to sing Vivaldi Gloria, and just the first movement of the Vivaldi Gloria. And the process after that has been sort of compounding returns, I guess. You know, when you've been doing something for 5 years, it naturally builds, because we stuck at it. And every piece of feedback we got from singers, we took on board, and we tried to build something which meant something to people and mattered to people, and gave them connections that they valued. And it turned out that the connections people really value are connections with composers, with artists, people who don't work in the music industry professionally are fascinated about process.
Mm.
They love to know how we do it, what we do it, how they can do it better. And ultimately, they're in the same pursuit of joy as the rest of us. You know, they want to find more ease with their music making. They want to learn more about the music because it brings them joy. And so we built the organization around that as a principle.
Actually, I just saw one of your reels that you posted, and you said, you know, Christmas time is a very busy time, but remember the joy that you bring to people. I love that you're using your platform to bring that kind of messaging to people.
Interestingly, I grew up with I say grew up. I came to music relatively late in my life. I started singing in my teens, and I committed to conducting as a profession at the age of 24, having done other things outside of the music world. But I had a deeply held belief that classical music was somehow serious, and that by being full of joy and expressing my joy, I was somehow being less professional and less serious, and therefore less valuable in some ways as a classical musician. And I have really come into my, it sounds really woo woo to say I've really come into my power, but I feel like I really am, like, all my systems are driving in the same direction now that I feel comfortable to express my personality, which is really full of joy and excitement and vigor, and marry that with the idea of also being very serious about the music and expecting quality and working seriously towards quality, but without losing that joy. I didn't used to think I was allowed to do that, so realizing that's made a big difference to me.
What a profound way of thinking about this. I completely agree, and we've heard this from many musicians who think that there's such a serious aspect to being a classical musician that if you somehow come across as having fun or joking around.
I mean, we go out on stage wearing all black.
Right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I love this idea that you can be very serious and have high standards and quality, and also let your personality shine through.
But it is a balance, because too much lack of focus and frivolity can distract from, it can drag focus, it can move away from long interrupted periods of focus that you need, certainly when you're working with ensembles, to get that real result. And so, as well as, for all it's been freeing, it's also been a learning process for me to work out where the line is and how to sort of shift through those modes when you're working with an ensemble, so that you're not sacrificing the quality, but neither are you sacrificing the pleasure of the process.
So how have you determined a little bit where that line is for yourself in your own conducting?
Amazing how much better you get at things with practice. And by just doing a lot of it, and having a sense of awareness and reflecting on what went well and what could have gone better, and where were those moments where you kind of felt you lost it a bit, and always challenging yourself to be better.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about that awareness, how much is the choir providing feedback to you, or is this something that you're aware of on your own?
Ooh, that's a really interesting question. I think the choir provides, or whichever ensemble, even if I'm working with an instrumental ensemble, they provide an enormous amount of feedback, but I don't think they necessarily realize they're doing it.
Right.
You can feel the focus drop in a room.
Mm-hmm.
You get a sense of that, and really it's almost like surfing a wave. You're constantly evaluating how the thing feels under your feet or under your hands, and compensating as best you can. I'm pretty sure there are some statistics out there for how often surfers fall off their surfboards. I'm sure, conductors are exactly the same in terms of, there'll be the optimal way to run any rehearsal or conduct any performance, and I doubt anybody gets 100%.
That's amazing. So what has been one of the most joyous occasions that you can remember, either in rehearsal or on stage, where you felt this focus, but also the energy come through?
I'm very lucky. I feel like that in a large proportion of my work, because I'm so fortunate to work with brilliant musicians, wonderful singers, people who really desperately want to be in the room. And I feel like that motivation just produces such like locked in energy in ensembles with people that I get to work with that a lot, and it's one of the greatest joys. The most joyous moment, I think, potentially of my entire career, or actually there are two. One would be my first curtain call at the Albert Hall, walking out on stage and taking a curtain call after prom in the season last year.
Wow.
And then the second would be the very, very ending of Mahler 2, which I got to conduct in September. I mean, talk about a bucket list moment.
I think you posted a video about that moment, right?
Oh, yeah. Stop. It was just the best. And, you know, I spend so much of my life being like in service of the people, in service of the music. I just had a freaking great time on the podium too.
Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. And to also just own that space and to say, I've been waiting for this moment for a long time.
Yeah. And I almost had to... I had to sort of push myself to be like, do you know what? I get to sit and smell the roses a bit here and say, you know, that was an amazing experience. You know, so much of our lives and careers as musicians involves like having a little dynamo inside yourself, which is constantly striving for more and propelling yourself forwards. And sometimes, and you're also not supposed to be too self-aggrandizing or self-congratulatory. You know, some of those concepts are also, you know, there are negative stigmas around those. So I kind of had to stop myself and go, whoa. That was an awesome moment.
Wow.
You're allowed to enjoy that and appreciate it. And it is allowed to be for you, as well as for the players and for the singers. I know, and it was largely for the players and the singers, and then the audience got to appreciate it as well. But I think the experience there was the journey of growth of that group of musicians, from the first day of rehearsals through to the performance, that was truly life-changing.
Oh wow.
You know, but then it also gets to be life-changing for me as well, which is lovely. Life-changing
because of the synergy that came through the rehearsals to the performance, or what were you experiencing in those days?
It's the sound, the visceral energy of the sound of an orchestra like that, and the iconic place that Mahler's Second Symphony holds in the classical canon. You know, it feels momentous as a piece of music, and so to have an opportunity to be a part of that legacy was huge.
Amazing. Yeah. And can you talk a little bit more about stopping to smell the roses, as you're saying? What does that mean to you? Have you noticed moments in your past where you didn't maybe do that and you realized after that you could have taken time?
I think by the very definition of it, once a moment is past, if you fail to notice the moment, it's gone forever. So who knows what opportunities for joy I've passed up in my life through being too blinkered and too focused on the road ahead. But I do know that the older and wiser that I get, the more I think that there must be balance in all things. And the more that if you try and kid yourself that you don't need it, then it'll even itself out along the road in some way. It may be through, you know, well, it can come out. I'm sure this is something you talk about on the podcast all the time. You know, if you don't have that balance, your body or your mind or your, I don't know, even your achievements later down the line will find a way of evening out that balance. So you might as well stop and smell the roses and take time to slow down. And also I think it helps you to take stock of where you are. I mean, if you were on a physical journey and you're traveling down a road, you use the scenery to guide you and to make sure you're on the right path, and to give you information about your surroundings. And I think the same is true in life. You know, these moments are pieces of scenery that you can use to make sure that you're enjoying the road that you're on.
I really appreciate you talking about this, because one of the big things that we see in our community and with our clients is the what's next. No matter what project you've talked about, it's people always say to you, okay, and what's next? And so I really appreciate you saying, let's go back to Mahler 2 and relive that moment. Even now I can share the joy, as I didn't get to hear that concert, but I can see what it meant to you. And yeah, can you share about that?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can give an example from that specific concert. We had one singer who we had 3 days of rehearsals, and then we had the concert. And the singers were all amateur singers. I think we had 4 professionals in the mix, but yeah, the orchestra were pros, the choir were amateurs. One singer who left the last night of rehearsals and spent the night in St. Thomas Hospital.
Oh.
She did the entire rehearsal process with her hospital admissions wristband on her wrist, and she got straight into a cab and she went straight back to hospital after she finished rehearsals, and she got a cab from the hospital to the gig and did the gig. And there's no need to share too much about her situation, but she was at the point where she was looking for joy in her life. Wow. And that was a risk she was willing to take and a sacrifice that she wanted to make. Her family came to see her and watched her perform, and then she got back in a cab and went back to St. Thomas.
Those are really choosing your moments, right?
And our general manager didn't tell me this until after I'd finished conducting the gig.
To protect your...
I thought I'd just save you that one, but I've stored it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was your... I mean, it's almost like realizing
it's a very that's a sobering thought, actually.
Yeah,
it's a sobering thought that you bear the responsibility for giving that experience to people, and not solely. It's not just me, but together with the team, and because World Choir was something that Jamie and I conceived, and it's kind of been our brainchild. We do have a responsibility to the people, to our charges, to the people who choose to make music with us. We have a responsibility to bring them the joy that they're looking for. And I think I felt that responsibility very heavily when I heard that particular anecdote. But it's true for lots of people in a less dramatic way.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just what you're bringing and what you mean to these people who get to.
I do think that is something that as musicians we lose sight of.
Okay.
There's the music industry it's very insular. It's quite closed. Normally a large part of your social group are musicians. Maybe you date a musician, maybe you marry a musician, and it can be just like a little club, can't it? Where the audience is in some ways external to that club.
Us and them, right?
Right. And so I do think that sometimes we lose track of the product that we make and how it is consumed and why it is consumed.
Yeah.
The human, it's more important than ever nowadays.
Okay, we need you to talk so much more about this, because, when funding gets cut, it's the arts, because it's the not necessaries. Or I just had a very good opera singer friend of mine talking about how she feels that her job is superfluous, that it's not necessary for society. So there's many artists wrestling with this back and forth of, is what I do helpful, required, important enough to justify dedicating our entire heart, souls, and lives to it, when it is so difficult to, as create your own path, find your way.
So the quote I was looking up is a quote from Winston Churchill. Interesting. The Churchill Project says, we've been getting a lot of questions about an alleged Winston Churchill quotation. I'm reading this live, so I don't know the answer to this. And whether it's genuine. The story is that when Churchill was asked to cut funding to the arts in order to support the war effort in World War II, he responded, if we do that, then what would we be fighting for? Alleged quotation. Unfortunately, our best efforts fail to find it amongst Churchill's 15 billion published words of speeches, papers and letters.
No, I've heard that quote before, and then I also heard that it was refuted, but I still really love that quote because it is true. But it's hard to remember this when there is so much discussion and talk and war and politics and, where does arts fit in? So I love hearing you share. So what are some other thoughts that you've had or conversations you've had with people? Like, do you find that people immediately are already in this mindset, or are you changing mindsets when you talk to people?
I want to change mindsets when I talk to people.
Okay.
I think that as an industry, we're going through a period of significant change. I think that power is being interesting. I'm kind of thinking as I'm talking, I feel like in some ways artists have more power than ever before in terms of how they can put themselves out there, how they can connect with other musicians, the education that is available, like your podcast, where artists can educate themselves on things which are non-musical but still absolutely vital to their freelance careers.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in other ways, more power is being taken away from artists than ever before with streaming and AI and all of the other things that we see as perceived threats to the music industry, the difficulties that publishers have controlling copyright, artist royalties, all of these things which are undermining the safety and security of artists. So basically the verdict is our industry is going through an incredible period of change. I am a habitual optimist. I am sure that out of hardship will come innovation and that artists will adapt and that artists aren't going to die out. People aren't going to stop being creative. And part of that optimism is that in an age of AI, the bespoke, the artisan and the handmade are going to become so much more valuable in contrast to the previous generation of mass production where craft became cheap. So I'm optimistic, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a bumpy road. And so whenever I'm encountering old mindsets of I must wait to be given a job, a permission, an audition, a role in order to begin building my identity as an artist, I want to challenge that.
Okay, tell me about this, because this is something we mentioned before. The curse of waiting for permission is how you had worded it.
Oh, yes. Well, it's again, it's a double-edged sword because an industry that deals so much on quality and nuance needs to be governed by experts. We can't be sick of experts in classical music. That's just not ever going to happen. However, if an artist is waiting for an audition, consciously or subconsciously, as a way of validating their ability and their skill, then I would like to encourage them to reconsider, because in this generation there are so many different ways to practice as an artist, and I mean that in terms of practice your craft, and through doing that you always improve, you always get better. So if you're sitting around waiting for permission, then actually you're missing out on a chance to start that flywheel going that would ultimately lead to much more momentum.
And how have you encountered that with yourself? And I know that you just got onto socials. Can you talk about this, like, quickly accumulating such a following so quickly? Like, how
that was a bit of a shock, to be honest. So, what was can you ask me the question again?
How have you experienced this in your own life of not waiting for permission and the results that have come? Because you were saying that it would bring the flywheels, gets things going.
So, all of the businesses that I've started, so World Choir in 2020, and then Forge, which is our conductor mentoring program, which started last year, and we actually had our first cohort of 12 last week. I know. It was really lovely. Both of those businesses have come about as a result of just deciding to build something and then iterating and responding to what the community, whatever community has sprung up, what they want and what they're going to find valuable. And actually that process for Forge is in its infancy because we only got the cohort in last week, but the process will be the same as World Choir, which is building something and refining it. But you've got to start. And I I mean, call it luck if you will, but because of what happened in 2020 with COVID, I was forced to innovate.
We actually started TFA in COVID too. Yeah.
If that had never happened,
Yeah.
would I have sat around and waited for permission? I don't know.
Yeah.
But what happened then was I was slung onto a timeline where I saw the benefits of taking risks, of innovating, of, again, I'm pinging buzzwords at you at a rate of knots, but iterating. So taking the results, working out what went well, what didn't go well, and then continuing to build and continuing to be consistent and then just sticking at it. When I started World Choir with Jamie in 2020, I didn't know what it felt. I was 27. I was, still, I graduated a couple of years previously from my master's. I was still in my first couple of years of the contracts that I had. I didn't know what it felt like to build something and stick at it for 5 years.
Right.
I couldn't imagine what an organization would look like after I'd been doing it for 5 years. And now that I have, and I've got that lived experience, I want to sort of push other people to do it because I've seen that it can be hugely fulfilling. And yeah, it's another means of expression. Actually, it is building something, even if most of the work you do isn't musical. Building something is a creative expression. Being an entrepreneur is being a creative.
What's something that you had to overcome to stick with it for 5 years?
A huge lack of self-confidence.
Oh, really? That's the last thing I would have guessed for you.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, God. No, I mean, look, I don't believe in imposter syndrome, but the feeling that you could be doing it better, or that someone else will be doing it better than you, or maybe you shouldn't be doing it, or I don't know, all of these thoughts, they're part of the human experience. They live with us every day. And I think that there is a psychological diagnosis for people who don't feel those thoughts.
Right. Got it.
Maybe that's also something that doesn't go in the podcast. But, that if someone has absolutely zero self-doubt and think that they are the absolute best thing since sliced bread, then there is an imbalance there in some way.
Right.
Though, having said that, I was taking a little bit of time to plan over Christmas, and I saw that, that meme that goes around the internet says, being Delulu is the Salulu.
Yes.
Annoyingly, over the years of my life, I have come to realize that being Delulu is, in fact, the Salulu.
Okay, so how are you being Delulu?
Because you've got to believe that it'll work. You've got to believe that it's worthwhile. Mm-hmm. And even if you don't believe you could do it, you've got to find the conviction to try. Mm-hmm. And it's easier to find the conviction if you're Delulu.
I love that. Starting from the mindset of like, yes, this can work. Because
whole manifesting thing, again, it sounds woo-woo, but it's a way of committing yourself
right
to a path. And a fact is that small increases over time compound. Mm-hmm. That is a fact. Mm-hmm. And so if you can find a tool, whether it's being Delulu or not, to commit yourself to a cause incrementally over time, it will compound. The next challenge is making sure you're going in the right direction, that you actually want to get to the destination.
Yeah, but you already told us, then you just check in with your moments of joy, and do they confirm?
Do we need to put all my various analogies in chronological order at the end of this?
You're solving all of our problems from different angles. This is beautiful. So how have you stayed consistent? Was it easy for you to go 1% incrementally better? Okay, so what did you learn?
Oh God, I don't know. I'm still on the journey.
What have you learned in 5 years then? Why didn't you quit when it got hard in the beginning?
I've seen firsthand that, I'm actually getting a bit emotional thinking about this. I've seen firsthand that building something incrementally can have a big impact.
Right.
But you know, the real reason that I didn't quit when World Choir got hard is that I was doing it with one of my best friends. And this leads me on to something which
Jamie, right?
Yeah, Jamie Wright.
Okay.
Go look him up. He's the vocal percussionist in the Swingles. And
Mouth
he's
drummer.
a mouth noiser. Yeah.
Okay,
Makes noises with his face. He can do sleigh bells, which is really cool.
I need to hear this.
I'll send it to you afterwards. Yeah, he's great. The Swingles are wonderful. But this is something that I would like to discuss with you because I don't want to put out an opinion. I'd like this to be a discussion. And that is everybody talks about diversity and widening opportunities and finding ways of bringing people who haven't necessarily have traditional musical backgrounds into our wonderful industry. This is super important, and there's so much focus on it at the moment in the music world. There is another aspect to this, which I have learnt from my experience, which is the power of playing long-term games with long-term people. So one of the key reasons that I didn't quit when it got hard is that I've known Jamie since I was 16. We have such a deep level of trust that even though we were at some points disagreeing on huge things, the idea of that trust never changed. And so we always knew that we were going to get past it. There were moments in my career where I've worked with other people where that trust hasn't been there because there isn't the same kind of shared history, and it's been harder. And so I think a question which isn't asked enough in the music industry is like, it's very well bringing people in, but how do we socialize our musicians so that we're building that kind of trust? And what kind of conversations are we having? What kind of education are we giving that fosters trust between people? Because I was lucky, I had trust that was built organically over a period of many, many years. But if you really want musicians from different backgrounds to collaborate and to support one another and to be really gelled together and integrating, we have to find a way to build that trust. And I don't know how we do that. And I think it's a discussion that needs to be had.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, in my experience, working together in chamber music ensembles is always going to kind of accelerate that closeness because you are in close quarters for a long time. At least that's how Deanna and I started working together. And then we started facilitating together in international schools doing outreach programs. And I instantly recognized how well we worked together. And I had this moment of clarity where I thought, this is weird that I'm traveling with her. We're running for trains. We're getting in cabs at 4 a.m. and not a single moment of conflict or disagreement or it was just so easy with her. And I thought, oh, this is weird. And so then when the opportunity came up for us to start facilitating together, I think that, as you said, that deep level of trust was present. But we'd also performed. I think going on stage together with someone else is going to very quickly cement you.
and can you do that in a music college environment? Yes, definitely. And this is the reason why these are such like melting pots of connections. How do you do it for people who have not come through a conservatoire background? How do you fold people who are coming from, like, you know, I did go through a conservatoire, but not until I was 24. You know, until that point, the old school tie didn't apply to me. You know, and so how can we fold those people who are coming from more non-traditional backgrounds into these sort of levels of trust?
Well, what have you noticed with your choir rehearsals? Because you have 29,000, I believe. I mean, there's people coming from all over.
That was the highest number we had.
Okay.
I think we probably have 2,000 or 3,000 now.
Okay, but still, you've
if
seen
you
it
put
all.
them all in one room, it'd be a really big room.
Yeah, right. How are you bringing in rehearsal people from all backgrounds together and fostering this
Now,
connection?
here's the thing. This is not the kind of trust I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you're building something. I'm talking about if there's risk involved. I'm talking about if your well-being or your career or your financial stability is on the line. You know, how the when we started this line of inquiry, this conversation, we were talking about building something, how to have the conviction to take risks and build something. And I think that type of trust is a different type of trust.
Right. So, without you having known Jamie since you were 16, do you see another way that you could have built a partnership with someone?
I haven't experienced one, but I think that there is a useful discussion to be had as artists on how we build trust amongst the musical community. Because ultimately, I feel like if we work as collaborators, we work more powerfully together. I don't know the answer, really, but it's what I'm just speaking from my experience.
In terms of collaboration with Jamie, what is one of the most things that he has contributed that you've appreciated the most with this whole project?
Understanding. Yeah, I think that with artists working together, and I'm sure you found this with your ensemble work, knowing that you are in a safe space to make mistakes and a safe space to experiment and contribute ideas, whether they're business ideas or creative idea, musical ideas, that you can contribute things into the relationship without the fear of being judged negatively, but also knowing that you will get an honest reply.
Right.
An honest reply with kindness, I think, is and I'm speaking particularly about the World Choir project, but it's the same thing with Forge as well. I know my partner in Forge is a guy called Greg Beardsall. We've known each other for a similar amount of time, and the various partnerships that I have, professionally, when I travel for workshops and conducting workshops and things like that, the people who I work with, we all have this common thing, which is freedom of expression without judgment and honesty with kindness.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And is that something that you're seeing you bring to the table because it's a change that you want to see happen in our industry, or have you always had this?
I don't think I'm self-aware enough to know if I've always had it. I've noticed it because I've noticed the positive impact that it's had on me. And so now I try to reflect it.
Yeah, beautiful. So going forward, you've talked about Mahler 8 coming up. You've talked about the World Choir Forge. Is there any other project that you're anticipating in this coming year?
This coming year is going to be a busy one, actually. I'm traveling a lot to do guest conducting and workshops. So I work with amateur singers, I work with conductors, usually musicians who have found themselves in front of ensembles for whatever reason. So they've got all of the musical ideas, and we work on embodying those and how to authentically show through gesture what your ideas are without worrying about all of the stereotypes of being a conductor. So I travel around to do a lot of that. I'll be going to Austria and Germany and Australia in 2026. And if anybody else wants me to come and visit, I'd be very glad to.
Great.
So yeah, lots of workshop tours, and then the big pillars in my year tend to be the London Philharmonic Choir. We're taking Lord of the Rings to the Albert Hall and Fairfield Hall in May, and then the tour to Hong Kong for Mahler 8 in November. And we're also going to be doing 2 in-person events with World Choir. They are at the Llangollen Eisteddfod in July, where we'll be taking a new commission and Carl Jenkins' latest cantata, One World.
Yes.
Yep, your old buddy.
I saw that in Carnegie Hall last year.
Oh, great. Yes,
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah.
I had 50 World Choir singers were singing that.
Okay, so now that you have such a huge online following, what is one thing you see other musicians, a mistake that they're making that you think, yeah, guys, this doesn't matter. Just what should people focus on instead?
Oh, I don't like to opine in general terms about what everybody should be doing because everybody's different. So maybe what I'm going to say is don't feel like you need to follow other people. You know, everybody grows and progresses on their own timeline. If you feel reluctant to do something, I'm going to start that again. Everybody grows on their own timeline. If you're feeling reluctant to do something, there's probably a reason why doing it is not going to work for you. So think about yourself. Be aware of these emotions because all of these emotions are serving you in some way. They're telling you that they're giving you a warning sign or they're leading you in a different direction. And stamping them down is not going to help you to find ease in your art or ease in your life. So yeah, don't follow somebody else's timeline if you can. I realize that requires even more creativity because you have to create your own. But yeah, if you can, try and listen inside and find your path from there.
Thank you for all of your wisdom and insights for our musicians. If there's one action point that people should take right now based on what you shared today, would you know what that is?
So take a few deep breaths. Do it straight away. Why not? One of my favorite exercises that I do if I'm feeling like I don't know what to do next, I don't know what the next tiny little step is I breathe in and then I breathe in a bit more. And then I breathe out. And I absolutely am not advocating this as any kind of singing technique. But the fact of hyperinflating your lungs is a really, really good way of resetting your focus, resetting your nervous system, and just becoming really present. So if you do 6 of those and then decide the next thing you're going to do, I hope that it makes it a little easier for you.
Something practical that we can all do today. Thank you, Tori. It's been wonderful to have you.
Pleasure. It's lovely to have a chat.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing all of your projects on your socials. How can we find you, follow you, stay in touch?
Right, so I'm at Tori Longdon, I think. Yes, all one word. If you want to check out World Choir, it's at World Choir. And if you want to check out Forge, it's at Forge Conducting. This is all on Instagram, but we are also eminently Googleable. And I've got a website in case you fancy popping a workshop in the diary.
Website. Yes.
Oh, stop.
Everybody who wants a workshop, go check out Tori's website.
I'm very happy. I love meeting people. It's one of my favorite things about the work that we're all lucky enough to do.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. And we'll see you, everyone.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode. Be fearless. Thanks, Tori.